Hello, this is the Drunkduck Quackcast. I'm Ozone Ocean, and with me is Taunt and Bane.
Hello.
Hello?
Hello, my friends, my compatriots. Today we're talking about stuff, but first we need the theme. Theme, and now I'm going to tell you about the stuff that we're actually talking about. We're talking about fur, hair, and feathers, hey? Pretty cool. Good subject. Was that worth waiting for? I think it was.
Sounds like my medical report.
You got to shave those off, Baines. You seriously.
They tell me.
Turning off the ladies, man.
It does, yeah.
Everyone has a niche preference. They don't know about that.
Yeah, well, you got to troll for the right girls who are into those fetishes, man, and maybe you'll find your girl one.
Especially like if you get yourself a castle and some magic furniture servants and a huge library, maybe you will get one in there.
Maybe that's the way to go.
You're a bit of a beast. That's true. Bane's the beast.
Yeah, Bane's the fairy, because that guy was not. Actually, I remember, because I was one of the people old enough to have seen this at the theaters, Beauty and the Beast. Before that, I owned this VHS tape of another Beauty and the Beast movie, where the Beast was actually beastly.
Oh, a beastly beast.
Yeah. He had like this hog's head and literal tusks coming out of his like a side, and he had this like sort of slightly gleaming thing covering over his face, like he was constantly slightly oozy.
Dribbling.
Or no, he like he was oozing, like his skin was always too moist.
Okay.
I don't know how else to describe it. And he had hoofs for hands. And
so very much a beast. Very, very beastly.
Yeah, he just was upright and dressed. And yeah, now that was actually a beast.
Well, the beast for me was, of course, the famous Ron Perlman and the Beauty and the Beast TV series. And
oh my God! Everyone was like in love in my class.
Starring the lady from Terminator, whatever her name was.
Yeah, I remember her name.
Fantastic. Ron Perlman looked like an amazing, good-looking guy as the Beast. Way better than he actually.
Got a great look.
And he was named Vincent. Like, how can you say no to a name like that?
So. You gotta love it. Yeah. And Ron Perlman went on to play Hellboy years later.
Oh yeah. Looks even better.
Well, for me, the Beast is. I love the animated one from the '90s. Even though that Beast had a lot more appeal, like Tance is suggesting. Like so many people, when he turned human, they're like, "Oh, I liked him better as the Beast."
Yeah, I remember feeling slightly disappointed in the theater when he turned
I've heard that
out.
from a lot of people. Yeah.
Yeah. Stay a beast. Keep your hair and your feathers and your fur and all that stuff. But
this isn't something with the proportions of his face. We should talk about proportions next time.
We should. When during Beastmen. Yeah. But this isn't the Beastmen cast. This is the fur, feather, and hair cast.
Yeah.
And before we get into that, we got to do the feature comic. The feature comic was something I featured. Oh my God, it was Pol's Adventure. POS. It's not POS as in the acronym or initialism POS. It's just POS as in a shortening of a name.
Point of sale.
Point of sale, yes. That's the good version. I wouldn't have called my thing Pos just because of the implication, but it's a great comic.
It's a gorgeous comic. Definitely deserves the feature. Just wanted to say that.
It's nice.
It really did. Yeah, they did a great job at making that comic. It's gorgeous. So I'm going to be talking about that Pos Adventure now. Hello, I'm Nation, and my feature for the week was Pos Adventure. Shansha Forest is a beautiful, lush green jungle full to the brim with exciting and unusual flora and fauna. A lot of it is quite dangerous. Po and Kazia are two little monkey-like people who are tasked with protecting this wonderful place and keeping the creatures safe and in balance with one another. Like rangers at a national park, their job is essential and needed to maintain this paradise. The plucky Po and clever Casey use their titanic strength and crafty cunning to combat threats to the safety of Shoshana Forest and its residents. But do these two paragons have a secret? It seems Kaz might know more than she's letting on. This is an action-adventure comedy comic. The art is all very cleverly honed, black and white line art with beautiful colour cover that I used as the cover page for this particular feature. Lovely, lovely, lush work. Has a bit of a, I would say, a manga influence, a very stylized manga influence. It's great line art. It's very clean, very honed, nice stylized regular artwork. It's done by Bitter Badger, and Bitter Badger obviously has a lot of skill. And it's rated T for teens, so give it a look. That was our featured comic, which was POS Adventure. Okay, so after that we have the featured music. Gummels has given us the theme to Grape Shot this week, which was a featured comic a while ago, and I said, you must do a theme to this, and he actually did one, which is really cool. So, yeah, theme to Grape Shots. A charmingly whimsical sea-themed folky tune, promising adventure, action, booty, and freely flowing grog. Dance a little jig to the joyous violin. Take it away, Gummels, with your theme to Grape Shot. That was the theme to Grape Shot. Thank you very much for that, Gum Wallace. And this is a comic by Mercury Virus Comic. I think there's the name of the creator. It really is, Mercury Virus Comic. And it's rated T for teen. So, give it a look. I've already featured it, so it must be good.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
There's not too much feather, fur, or hair in that comic. Well, there's the normal amount of hair. like excessive. But yeah, okay. So feather, fur, or hair. How do you draw these things? It's an interesting little subject, really. I like doing a lot of feather, fur, and hair in my comics. I especially did a lot of that in my recent collab with these two bastards.
Right.
Key of Dreams, where we had feathery characters. We had 3 feathered characters in this particular comic, and 1 character with a lot of hair, and had to do all those things. So it was quite a challenge. Baines, Chance, and I all had goes at drawing them, but I think I did a lot more kind of.
You did all of it. Come on.
Feathery, fairy stuff.
Yeah.
I know you guys have
Very
done
much so.
like imagery for it, depicting these things, so I wasn't alone.
Concept art. We did concept art, and Baines did the layout and thumbnailing, except for like a couple of pages where I sort of deigned to make one. And then you drew it all. So
Yeah.
Well, I did
So all that
the final work
excessive
for it.
detail
Yeah.
and colors was all you.
But coming up with designs and stuff is an important part of that, because, I mean, like, how do you draw the hair on a character? That's not simple, is it? Especially when they're, like, okay, so these are ancient Greek themed characters. So you can't just give them whatever hairstyle you want. You have to give them ancient Greek hairstyles, which I don't know if I did, but I sort of
you
did them. And the concept art that you and Baines had done was a help in that.
Wow. Good.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Good. Well, very good.
Yeah. Speaking of hair, the way hair is drawn, I would even dare say that it defines a lot of the style of an artist, like how an artist draws hair, or how, like, the method of drawing the hair for a particular style defines the style a lot. Like, for example, if we take Key of Dreams versus Pinky, for example, or Bottomless Waitress, the way you draw the hair, in these 3 different comics is completely different. Although it is your style, it gives a different tone to it. If not, like, I can tell you drew all 3, but it gives a completely different feel to its character, the style and all of that.
It's during Bottomless Waitress. How many hairstyles have we given the main character Jane through the comic? I think she's had like 5 different hairstyles, and she hasn't actually changed her hair. It's just been like, I've just decided to draw in a different way every freaking time. I'm tired of doing this. I'm going to give her this hairstyle instead. Hey, that was fun, because so she's a black woman, so there's particular hairstyles that are associated with black ladies' hair, which is, it's just one of those things. But black women could have any hairstyle just as anyone else can have any hairstyle. But I really like the idea of drawing like like tight curls and putting her hair up, like having it very fluffy and pretty natural. But then I was wanting to do slightly looser curls and having it tied up and hanging in a certain way, and she sort of moves throughout these different versions. Like it's fluffier, it's tighter, it's this, it's that. Just trying to get the right feeling for her and the right look for her personality and her where she is. When she's sadder, her hair is, I don't know. I had a lot of fun doing all different styles for her.
Nice. Yeah.
Coming up with one that works. Baines, you noticed that too, didn't you? We sort of working on that together, weren't we, to try and give her the right look?
Yeah, I think it came from you, the idea to change it. Excuse me, to change it and stuff, and I love it. Really love it. Because she's kind of sort of going through kind of an emotional roller coaster. And also, time is going by, and we look at the pages, and you start to thinking, like, oh, I want to change it a little bit. Just to change it, but also because of what she's going through in the story so far. So,
yeah, it fits.
Yeah, man, it's awesome.
It's. I mean, the other character's hair is quite hard because they are very stylized. The way we draw Bottomless Wishes is very stylized, and especially the hair. It's a lot more stylized than I would normally do hair, and to get those styles looking right from different angles is very tricky because they're they're more.
That's the unique issue of drawing comics, right? You can't just think of one picture. You think of like over and over from all different angles, and how's it going to look?
It is, and they're kind of like retro styles as well, so they're not modern styles. And Francis has this weird kind of like side part kind of thing, and this hair that's shoulder length and sharply curved.
It looks teased to me, to be honest.
Yeah, there's a bit of body in it.
Yeah.
And that's very tricky from different angles, because where do you put those little curls when she's facing you, and where do you put them when she's to her back and to her sides? You know, do they face outwards or do they curve inwards? And then you've got Polly with her ridiculous Peggy Hill. No, not Peggy Hill. That's King of the Hill. Peggy Bundy. Peg Bundy from Married with Children. That's who her hair is inspired by, and that's an enormous bouffant, almost beehivey kind of thing, and then hanging down. I don't know how you would even describe it. It's ridiculous. That is massively teased. Yeah. And that's another tricky thing. So I didn't even understand the hair. Like, drawing a hairstyle like that isn't a good idea unless you understand it. And I don't understand it. I just fake it.
It doesn't show.
No, it doesn't.
And when you say understand it, I would venture to add that understanding it means like where the weight of the hair is, if it has any, and the direction of the hair and how it would move in 3D space if you were. And
also how it's constructed in that way. I don't understand how it. How do you make hair like that? I don't know. I can draw it.
She totally has like naturally big hair. Like she probably has more hair follicles than a normal human being. Which happens, by the way. Some people do have that. And I would expect that she teases the base a lot, and then lets the rest. Like she blow dries it with this really wide thing that you draw.
And a lot of hairspray. A lot of hairspray.
And a lot of hairspray, and
right.
And if you are using hairspray and teasing, that means your hair basically doesn't move because it is immobilized in a position.
And it defies gravity.
And it defies gravity, yeah.
She has magic hair. You heard it.
No, I have had hair like this. And it literally is like you are wearing a hat that is attached to your scalp. When you, especially if you get out there, like you get a salon updo that is very specific, or, big hair in a salon, done in a salon, you may walk out with hair that is basically like wearing a helmet. You are protected from falls with that hair.
Funnily enough, in the 80s, when heavy metal was very much directed towards having lots of hair. And people these days call it hair metal or whatever, but in reality, if you were around in that time, you'd understand it. There was no such thing as heavy metal without long hair. That was all bands had it, except for Judas Priest and some
Yeah.
from very small little weird acts like rose tattoo and stuff. You had big hair if you were a rock band. That was it.
Everyone had big hair, really.
But they
If
used to. The style of it was to be higher than the head, and you had to get hairspray, and they used to call it their hat. Like you were saying, Dance, they used to call it their hat. The hat had to be.
Yeah.
So,
And go on, please.
no, that was my point.
No, I was not going to share horror stories from 1980s Easter celebrations over here, where we on Resurrection Day everyone goes and has to hold this very tall celebrational candle with a naked flame.
Oh,
So yes, exactly. Oh no! Imagine crowds in the 80s with this big hair, all the perms and all the, huge hair with the accelerant that is hairspray and all of that, and those candles. There were a lot of fireworks that were not intended to exist. So that was to the point that people expected to hear stories about how everyone, a woman lost her entire hair like in 1 minute. Yeah, exactly. Boom, goes up in the flames. So there you have it. Not anymore. Now everyone goes and has like tight buns and stuff for that reason.
Well, traditional stuff. Well, actually, speaking of Key of Dreams, and we did mention this because I've got like a lot of feathery people in Key of Dreams. Mm-hmm. But I've just been looking at it, trying to familiarize myself with everything, with all the hairy matters in Key of Dreams. And I noticed, what was the lady's name in Key of Dreams? It was
Minnie.
Minnie. Okay. Minnie. Mm-hmm. So in that,
which by the way means anger. It's not from Minnie Mouse.
Anger. Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So in that, I gave her very specific personality traits that were dependent on her hair. So initially, she has this very traditional kind of like hairstyle with like these two kind of braids, and she's got this headdress, very complicated stuff. And because she's being like a traditional character, and then she loses that, takes it off, and lets her hair flow out and becomes more kind of like womanly and sexy.
Yeah.
And then goes to bed. So that is her transitioning into the womanly sexy mode, taking it out of the traditional braids. And the next part, we have her transforming into a demonic kind of witch. She is. And then the hair stands up like all around her head. And we were saying before how you shouldn't draw every single strand of hair unless you want someone to be a monster. I drew every single strand of hair for her in those things going.
Yeah, and it worked so well.
Yeah, it is effective. Like it goes like standing up and sticking out. Like I wanted it to have the effect of like vines or sticks, something like that.
Yeah.
So it's which is
and
what hair
you
looks
want
like.
To touch really, like something that you would not want to touch.
Repellent.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I had a few techniques of doing that. Like I had, because mostly it's like just, I mean, I colored it afterwards, but it's just background colors that it gets, like if they, like this green or something like that to show a glow. So what I did was I did it totally black a lot of the time. So all the strands are black. And then I just erased lines. So then you have like sort of highlighted lines in the hair, which worked. And sometimes it just did it all black lines, just line. So it becomes one mass where there's a lot of lines close to each other, and then they come out and separate the more lines you've got and the further you've got away from the head. So I've got those kind of effects for that hair, and it worked really successfully, especially when I did all black and this erased lines. That was like super effective on showing texture and body to this whole mass. It sort of gave it even more kind of shape and mass. So that was incredibly fun and interesting, and gave it the character a lot of there was a lot showing a lot more to the personality of the character and the feeling. And then the third change is going back to kind of like flowy, sexy kind of hair, and I wanted to give her like the look of super wavy hair, which you have for a lot of ancient Greek kind of women. You often for ancient Greek like women in the statues and stuff, they never have their hair out.
No,
they have it like always tied back and stuff. But I imagine that if someone who has their hair tightly plaited has their hair out, it has that kind of very wavy, curly look. And that's how.
Yeah, if you notice in a lot of statues where they have like take the caryatids, the statues from the Parthenon.
Yeah, the caryatids are the ones who are they are on a balustrade holding up a roof, basically the pillars, basically.
So they have a very intricate hairstyle under the hat, and if you see them from the back, they have this very thick fishtail braid that goes down their back, and it ends in a tuft of hair that is very wavy. And the fishtail as well is a fishtail of wavy hair. So these ladies had very wavy hair, and I'm pretty sure not every ancient Greek woman had wavy hair, but those were the beauty standards, because you want to sculpt a pretty lady. So
true, and it has been a Greek kind of thing forever for women to have wavy hair.
We still have, like, most women of Greek origin have some kind of wave in their hair, although nobody likes it, so everyone straightens their hair up.
So that's what mean gets, and the way I did it when I did that was to do a huge mass and only to draw some strands, and mainly doing it as a fluffy kind of thing, which was a lot easier, and it really works.
Hair doesn't need to be complicated unless there is a very specific reason, like how you described, the monster hair and all that.
Exactly.
You need more of a, I would say, an action line, especially if you have, unless it's a buzz cut, where you have basically hair sticking up because it's too short to do anything else. Then drawing an action line of how the hair moves, and then following that action line to draw the rest of the body of the hair works. At least for me, it works a lot. That's how
that's a good way. I mean, it can be. Oh, sorry, Bones.
No, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was just saying that makes a lot of sense, and I like hearing this. I love drawing hair, and this is giving some good food for thought.
Oh,
do you know what was really hard in Key of Dreams? The hard part was doing what's his name's hair, Morpheus.
Oh yeah.
Because I came up with this. I really, for some reason, I wanted to do this short kind of like mullety kind of hairstyle on him. And Tance had come up with this idea of like giving him this long, flowy hair that looked really cool. But I had it in my head that I wanted to give him this mullety hairstyle for some reason. I don't know, maybe like because he's like it's a dick of a guy. Yeah. And maybe that emphasized to me the idea of someone who's a dick.
Well, honestly, yours would be a more historically faithful rendition as well, because he's a young man, and they would have their hair, like the older you get, the longer the hair was the general rule of thumb, more or less. So you would have, like, you would expect the young god to have shorter hair.
How cool.
So yours was better. But now you are giving me a nice way to segue. Why did I want him to have long hair, which then wouldn't have worked the way, like your design was better, because the idea was for the hair to be animated, because he's a dream a dream god, uh, not just dreamy, but just
Yeah.
actually the god of dreams. um, and so the idea was that his hair would like snake out and be basically alive around his head. But you gave him awesome wings, and the wings wouldn't have stood out as well with another busy thing in his design.
Sometimes it's
So
talking about the hair wings. He's got wings on his back and also
mm,
wings in his temples. So,
exactly. So that wouldn't have worked as well. Having the wings around, which was also very cool, like a laurel around his head, very very cool. Uh, and also the wings moving give a lot more emote more.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
so
that was really fun to do. So when he was like really scared or angry, the feathers
yeah,
would stick out. The
yeah,
wings would come out and go, oh, and then when
yeah,
it was calm, they'd just be, like a laurel around the back of his head. And
yeah,
yeah, to emphasize what he was feeling at the time. It was so fun
yeah,
to do that.
yeah. He's cool. I miss him actually. Now that we are talking about,
Oh, yeah, we got to have him again. We've got to have more, like,
yeah, we should. Like
yeah.
if life becomes a little less crazy, I will want to at least write another script for another little short, hopefully.
I
So
love doing these characters. Love
yeah, me
them.
too. I love them as well, and I love the twins as well. The twin gods, Hypnos
Oh,
and
yeah.
Thanatos.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
they are awesome as well. I love them. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, they were cool. I gave one of them like long, straight, kind of wavy hair, and one of them super curly hair in a little bun.
mhm.
So yeah,
Yeah,
and I did a super stylized version of the curly head one by giving him like an outside, like crinkly look to it because it's curly
yeah,
hair. So that would be the silhouette, and inside I just give him bunches of little spirals just to
yeah,
indicate in a kind of like a cartoonified or stylized version of what curly hair would look like. So it's not realistic. It's like a yeah, it's like a
stylized,
cartoon style.
abstracted.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I thought that worked for him because he's meant to be. I was thinking of it like an image on a vase almost.
mm,
So that kind of stylization. So inspired by that.
yeah. It gave me that impression, and I really enjoyed that as well.
Thank you.
That was awesome, honestly. Um, so yeah,
So yeah, a lot of fun doing hair and feathers and not much fur in this comic. No fur.
no fair. Well, yeah, no fair. Body hair, lots of body hair.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, Mean does have a little bit of fur
Yes,
in
it does.
places.
which
Yes.
is not unrealistic for a Greek lady.
Oh God. I've got one panel where she's really furry because she's a
Yeah,
monster. So yeah, that was fun to draw. So
that was super fun. I
oh
love.
God. But yeah, okay. So when you guys are drawing fur, Baines, you do fur on your avatar character, don't you? Which is pretty cool.
I do. I don't draw him very often, but yeah, sort of reuse the same picture. I've drawn him a little bit. He's fun to draw, and it's very cartoony style, very little detail. So it's more like suggesting, you have enough haphazard line to show the unevenness or the I guess the organicness of the hair on the edges, and then kind of suggest a little bit of detail within the character. That's about it. And then just comb it every day.
It's actually very very well done. I
Yeah.
tried to do a stylized version and I failed completely because I just messed up the fur.
I don't know about that.
Well, it is because
wouldn't-
I defined it too much, and it works really well because it's like more rough and gestural. I had done like spikes, and it just looks terrible compared to what you've done. So there are ways of doing it, and ways of doing it wrong.
Keeping it kind of rough and etchy definitely helps for a lot of hairstyles. It definitely helps for fur, this kind of fur anyway.
Actually, doing any hair and doing the defined spikes looks really bad unless you're doing a Bart Simpson sort of look.
Yeah. Which is why in Without Moonlight, the Diomedes character that has spiky, like his hair is very hard, like he has very thick. His hair is very thick and generally tends to stand up. Although it is grown out, so it does not stand up at this point. But it's so hard to draw. Like the hardest hair is that for me to draw because it tends to clamp into hard, pointy strands, and that's because he has black hair, which is rare, but not completely rare for Greeks. It's just it's a thing, and when you get that kind of hair, it's a really, really, really recalcitrant. So yeah, he has that, and I don't want it to look like he has gel in his hair, and he does it like that. So it doesn't look pretty often because I don't know how to draw it. So there's that. Yeah.
Okay. It's a challenge. For Bottomless Waitress, I did detailed drawings of different characters' hair before I actually did the characters. So
prudent.
and it had to fit their personality too. So I mean, we've got the Jane, Polly, and Francis, and they have their specific kinds of hair. Francis was meant to have a look of hair like a Kelly Bundy kind of thing.
Yeah.
Christina Applegate in Married with Children, and Polly had Peg Bundy style hair, which was that huge bouffant kind of thing.
Right. It was all from Married with Children.
Exactly.
Except Jane had a more kind of Latin style. Oh, sorry, Tom?
No. I was being silly. Go on.
Jane had like at one stage I wanted to make her look like a 1920s kind of heroine, where they have this kind of short, like fluffy kind of look. That was weird. I went to this more Latino kind of thing, and more of a kind of natural tight curls kind of look. It was weird. Her hair's just been all over the place. It's we need a hair master to come in and fix this stuff up. I can't keep anything.
I like it. Like we were talking about earlier, man.
Yeah.
I like the journey.
And also, she's going through emotional changes, right? A lot of emotional upwells and ups and downs and stuff. So people tend to change the look of their hair drastically, even when they are going through an emotional, like a strong emotional shift. So
true.
It works.
True. So there's a justification for the wild changes. But I also did the same kind of thing for the other characters. So there's Craig. His hair hasn't changed that much, but I think it's got more curly. So his hair was this kind of longish, not too long, but longish style that was sort of inspired by the male characters from heavy metal comics. So these heavy metal comics would have often European characters, like European youths who would have a specific kind of hair. So like an Italian youth So that's what his hair was based on.
Yeah, I was going to say he looks very Mediterranean.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's true.
Then there's Nikki, who has her kind of tank girl inspired look, but that's an alt rocker sort of look. Her weird, so it's shaved at the back and dark, and at the front it has like a straight fringe or bangs, and then long at the temples. So that's and that's all blonde at the front. So it's a very weird kind of hairstyle that I just loved for her for some reason. Just loved it.
Nice.
But she went through a different, because she's a lesbian, big kind of tough girl, and she went like some mullets, kind of shaggy mullet kind of look, and shaved at the sides and all weird stuff. Then we had Wilfred, and there were a couple of different choices for him. I had initially he was meant to have like a shaggy kind of red hair and big kind of beard kind of look, but then I came away with giving him like just tied back in a ponytail with a moustache and bushy eyebrows and glasses, which has a more kind of dorky look. I think
I'm still hoping to be able to talk to Wilfred about his hairdo eventually.
I'm sure it'll change quite a bit.
Yeah.
And then we had Danny, who had a whole bunch of different hairstyles. He was hard. Like I've messed it up
isn't
too.
He kind of like a James Dean.
He looks like an Elvis Presley / James Dean wannabe.
Yeah.
I really have messed it up because he wasn't meant to look like that.
But it works for his character.
Yeah,
I love it.
I just been looking at the older drawings, and his hair was more kind of I don't know. It had a better style to it. It's become more pompadour kind of look at the moment.
Well, right, Fonzie or Pompadour. Yeah.
It really works for him though. Like sometimes the hairstyle really shows part of a character's personality. So.
Yeah, well, he is very pompous, so Pompadour fits pompous character.
Pompadour of love.
Yeah.
Pompadour of love.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, a lot of work in different hairstyles. Love it. Tance, you do a lot of work you have many different hairstyles. I remember, what's his name from Brave Resistance? What's his name?
Oh.
I mean, what's his name?
Oh,
so you've got the big, tall Indian guy and the Hunter and Nikos?
Yes, Nikos.
Who's a doctor who is a real
He's the short guy.
So he has a very different hairstyle.
Yeah. So Hunter is the one that has the very 40s brilliant in like a side hair part sort of thing, and he likes being very 40s in fashion. Yeah. He's that kind of guy. I mean, he's not like a fop, but he really wants to. He likes having, proper hair, proper everything.
Well, he's in the military, so he has to have.
He also,
pretty standard hair, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He can't be too creative about it.
Well, yeah, in the Air Force they had a little bit more leeway in general, but what he has would be acceptable, and he generally is the very 40s guy, American style guy, although he's a half Native American. And Nikos, on the other hand, doesn't care. Like, he really doesn't give any, like a penny. Let's about his appearance. He is the guy that if his wife does not chase him down, he will never get a haircut. He's that type of person. So they are very polar opposites. And with Pit Face, we had this little sequence that we were going to do at some point eventually in like the second volume because originally it was going to have like 3 volumes. And where Hunter like really preps his hair perfectly, and Nikos just keeps opening the door, and Hunter's hair gets tousled by the wind, and so he quickly tries to fix his hair again, and just as he fixes it, Nikos just opens the door again. And he does that for like 3 times before he gets the equivalent of a wedgie, basically, from Hunter. So yeah, they are like their hair really reflects how they feel about their outward appearance. So
Okay, yeah. Then you've got the rough mountain dude who has
yeah,
a more kind of shaggy look.
yeah. Sakis is like typical goat guy, basically, shepherd. He has the very traditional natural curl, beard, hair everywhere. Does nothing about it because it takes care of itself. So, yeah.
All right. Well, we've got to cover not just hairstyles, but ways of drawing hairstyles. But it's pretty straightforward, isn't it, for hair? Like you want to do a shape, and then you want to do just a few strands of the shape in some way, whether dark or light. Like, do you do like highlights or white reflections or shadows? What's your kind of preference for definition within hair?
I like I get the base. After I do the shape, I put in the base color, and then I have some really, really dark shade of that color, almost like brown or black level dark shade. And so to make the volume of the hair felt, I make sure that whatever is very close to the scalp and away from the light gets very, very dark shading that also gives texture. And then, or for example, if you have a braid, like now in Verdant, everyone has military braids. So underneath the base of the braid is where I get the dark texturing going, and where the 3 strands of the braid meet, these junctures is also where I do a lot of texturing. And then I also do some highlights where the sun, the light hits the hair. And if it is very strong light, then I have 2 highlights, and one of the 2 is going to be almost white, where the very strong light hits. So,
white is incredibly effective for hair as a sheen, because hair is something that like if it's clean, or if it's like well moisturized, at least it has a lot of sheen that goes in the same kind of direction. Because hair tends to flow in the same direction if it's clean. If it's not, it can sort of be fluffy all over the place. Or, if it's really fluffy or kind of, if it's really, really curly, like, like a tight curls, then it won't have that unified look that gives a natural light sheen. It won't have that because there's too many directions and stuff like that, so it's not unified enough to do that. And if it's super unified, it will give a really, really strong white line. So the more unified a hairstyle is, the more of a reflection it's going to give, which is a weird way to think about it. And that's not good or bad, it's just how things are.
Yeah.
So an Asian person's hair, a Southeast Asian, is going to tend to be very reflective because there's a high incidence of straightness in that hair. Not always, but it's quite common to have very, very straight, thick hair.
Yeah.
Whereas, like African hair is going to be very, very tightly curled, and it's not going to have that kind of level of reflection because it's very, very random. So, unless people, get it styled or steamed or whatever, and then it is. But, that kind of thing isn't. European hair often is very wavy. Though that can change massively. It's all different kind of styles. But if you're doing wavy hair, it's not going to have a nice unified shininess to it.
No.
It's going to be broken up a lot.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And if you are going to do wavy hair, it's a good idea to decide like you would do in a sea painting, just some really main big waves. And then have some slight variation that breaks up these big waves. And that will work better than if you sort of do random squiggly lines everywhere.
Yeah.
So, and also the contouring of the hair and how the hair ends gives a lot of info about how that hair is.
Yeah, because how is it brushed? Is it going more towards this way?
Mm-hmm.
So you indicate that with the lines of your shading and your lines of your highlights. I do that. It's very interesting. I do like shaded parts towards like roots or away from the shadow, and then I do super highlights where it's kind of there is naturally more light in there, and that will go. It can go to white, although I don't always do that.
Yeah.
But it's definitely on the table.
Yeah. And also, again, like don't be afraid to shade to almost like not a black shade, but, very, very dark shade. If you have, for example, someone has big hair that is loose and it's not like in a ponytail or something like that. Then around the base of the skull and under the ears, you are going to see the mass of hair going like having a lot of shade, like the light will not reach there. So there is your opportunity to shade really, really darkly, and that will give a stark impression of the volume of the hair. So if you do that.
It really will.
Mm-hmm. And another tip that I learned the hard way when I was drawing wolf is that you should, when you draw the skull, the hair should be like elevated above the scalp. Even if you do like a ponytail or something like that, it's not completely on the same level as the scalp. It has to be a little bit higher.
Oh yeah, exactly. Got to put a little bit of body in there.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. But look, there are other ways of drawing hair, like I've done as well. If you want to do it more an Art Nouveau style, then you got to concentrate on strong outlines, and the hair is just a gradient, pretty much. There's no real kind of highlights or dark or shading, or we're just doing a gradient because it's like a coloured mass around the head. So yeah, that's the thing. There are many other ways, We're doing like the Baines's style, which is more like one tone. So you've just got to do like some lines within the hair, like almost like a. And you wouldn't call it outlines, but they're structure lines, I suppose, within the hair.
Yeah, I love what you guys were saying about where to put the shading and how to think about the construction of hair.
You don't need that. That's just a way of doing it.
Right, yeah.
So the way you draw hair is just as valid and just as useful as...
That's more cartoony, like you think of a silhouette. That's sort of, I guess, my main thought, if there was any real thought put into it other than, what looks good to me and sort of having a cast of characters look different from each other. That's kind of the priority. So you choose
there's
something
nothing
else.
wrong with that, but that's totally valid and very useful way of
Oh yeah,
rendering hair.
yeah.
So yeah, just having one tone,
So
and
it's
there's
like,
and that's
yeah,
as
yeah.
hard, and there's different skills involved in that, because if you're doing just hair as one particular shape without highlights and tone and things like that to indicate different flows, that's really difficult to do without all those things to use as crutches, So
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's
there's
interesting.
no
Yeah,
easy
I mean,
way
I
to
like
do
that
it.
new shading, and I've tried. Like, I shade a little bit sometimes, but just kind of more randomly. I'll confess. Highlights, I almost always end up erasing whatever highlighting I've done in hair. It never looks right. It makes it look like a hard surface or something. I don't know what I'm doing. But I love what you guys said about that, about the straighter hair, getting more highlights, and
Yeah,
that's
very
very
much so.
interesting. Yeah.
Something I always, I don't really remember. It's a technical kind of thing. But
I do like to put like one, if it's a neater hairstyle, I find I always like to have one little piece of messy, even like a tight bun or something. Just, especially if it's a character you want to be appealing, it just looks more human or something. Just a little bit of like little jag.
Mm-hmm.
Even
Yeah.
a character with like a tight afro one time, little jag. It made no sense. It just made him look way better.
Yeah. Well, there's always like baby hair and stuff. Like it's not nothing unless you have like a hairstyle for I don't know some competitive sport like figure skating or diving. These things that where people slick their hair back with industrial level
Yeah,
like material that then needs special shampoos to get off. Uh, some little strands of hair will always do its do their thing.
yeah. I think that's why it looks better to me, because that's real life.
Hmm.
Like, it's gonna be, you're gonna have some strands and some little stragglers and stuff.
Yeah, it's a lot of truth to that. The messy. I mean, not messy, but a lot more, like a little bit more freedom in the hairstyle. Yeah, that's a good idea. But I always want to reiterate: there's no like good way versus bad way of doing it. All these ways are equal because they're just different ways of
Yeah.
drawing hair. So, and there's many different approaches you could use. But one kind of thing that seems to be true to most of these things is doing an outline.
Yeah. And an action line, I would say. So that the hair moves in a not necessarily uniform direction, but in a direction that makes sense as a body of mass of some sort. So
Yeah, that's the way to do it. Unless you want to do the old way that I did Mean's hair with the
yeah.
standing out from the lines, where the hair outline is formed by the mass of the lines. You do, but that's not a good idea to do that for two reasons. One, it's a lot of work, and number two, you cannot do that exactly every time. So every time you draw the hair, it's going to be different. So you're not going to be able to replicate that ever, unless you're a psychopath.
And it will look like the hair is a monster hair. So
Yes.
Yeah.
Very much. Yeah. So don't actually really draw hair. And
That's a big thing, is having it replicatable. Like that's a good point. When you think of comics,
yeah.
thinking, well, you'll be doing this character for multiple panels, multiple pages, or maybe years and many stories or whatever. So, and I think a lot of times hairstyles for most characters probably change over time. That's okay. But like thinking in terms of drawing this over and over, I think about that a lot. Like, going to be able to repeat this, not just from different angles, but just literally be able to repeat it so it kind of looks the same. Sometimes sometimes no.
It's a hard thing to do. You got to get used to it. Got to
Yeah,
do
it's so
practice.
Yes.
You got.
Yeah.
But this has been the hair, fur, and
Feathers.
feathers cast. Oh my god! All right.
Some hair, fur, and feathers.
Okay. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to us up to now.
Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you. We don't mean to brush you off, but we have to go.